Good evening. Come on in and have a seat. We'll get started. I want to start on time, so hopefully we can finish on time, if not a little bit early. The 8th graders are over in Yancey, and I'm hoping we will finish at the same time they do, if not a little bit earlier, so that they will not be unattended and running wild, which normally is not a great thing. So before we get started with the presentation, I'd love to open us in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for your many blessings that are so apparent to us. We thank you for the things that we see and feel, and we thank you for those things that are unseen as well. Father, I thank you for the parents in this room and the families that they represent and their students. I pray that you would calm any anxiety that might be present as their child enters an exciting time of their life as they transition into high school and start really thinking about what the next 4 years may look like. Pray that you be with us tonight. May all we say and all we do glorify you in your Son's name. Amen. Well, thank you so much for coming out on a Thursday night. And I know everyone's busy and has a lot going on. My name is Jeff Plunk, and I am the high school principal. And I am happy to be here and sharing with you tonight. I will go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, and that is, you probably know that this is my last year in this role. I have accepted a head of school position out in Lafayette, Louisiana. So my family, my daughter and my wife will be moving out there this summer. My son, you probably know, is a senior, so he'll be headed somewhere to college this summer or fall. So we've got a lot of changes going on in our family. We're really excited. Love this school. And it's bittersweet for me to be moving on, but we really feel strongly that God's calling us to Louisiana and to this school. As a matter of fact, my wife and I were just there over winter break, and we stayed all the way until last night. And I was working and had a lot of meetings. We were supposed to get in at 8 o'clock last night. We flew, and of course there was bad weather. So we arrived at 1 o'clock in the morning. We circled Alabama, I think about 10 times, waiting on the weather to clear, and they finally cleared us into Atlanta. But so I'm a little bit tired, but I'm still quite excited to be here. I wanted to take a second and just say, as we go through the night, if you have questions, I'll take questions towards the end. But you can, if you're like me, I think of my best questions maybe in the middle of tonight. I'll wake up and think of something that I meant to talk about, or something will come into my mind. You can email me, or you can email the other two that are up there. So Joe Koch, and Joe's actually in the back of the room. You probably also know that Joe has been named as high school principal starting next year. And I'm so excited for Joe and really happy for Wesleyan. I think he's kind of been my right-hand guy for the last 5 years. He's a dear, dear friend. He loves this school. He's a parent here. And one thing I'm excited about is Joe. I share virtually everything with Joe. So Joe's up to speed on everything that we've been talking about and working on for the last several years. And I know he's going to just pick up and run with that. And he's got a lot of great ideas. He is a really creative thinker and a creative problem solver. He's a big and kind of burly guy, but he's really got a soft heart on the inside, and he loves kids. And that's why I'm so excited for him to move into this role. He has tremendous faith and a tremendous passion for this school. So I know Joe's going to do a great job. And I want you to be assured that we probably have 12 conversations a day that are at least 15 minutes in length. We talk all the time about everything. So I'm excited for me because it's going to make the transition easier, as opposed to had it been an external candidate. And we had some strong external candidates, but Joe was the clear choice. And I think it's going to help him being here on a daily basis and knowing what's going on. The other email there is for Ken Connor. Ken's the director of our college advising office. He couldn't be here tonight, but Ken can help you. Some of the questions that you may start to already think about and have this evening, believe it or not, that, there's impacts down the road, and so he may be a resource as well that you may want to reach out to. And depending on what you ask me, I may point you towards Ken to help with that question. So anyway, you can go to the website. You don't have to remember those, although this presentation will be sent to you. It's also being recorded, so you don't have to take any pictures, or some people like to take notes, but you don't have to do that, because all this will be made available to you. So I thought we would start by just talking about this whole process, and hopefully this slide will ease your mind a little bit. The purpose of this slide is for you to know that we have lots of activities in place, lots of transition activities that actually started back in the fall. We started spending some time with your 8th graders, and one of the biggest things we do is that first item. It's called Sneak Peek Day. I believe we just had our 4th year with Sneak Peek Day, and as a matter of fact, I'm not sure if you know this, but it was recognized by SAIS, the Southern Association of Independent Schools. They reached out to us and wanted more information about it. They wrote a nice article about this day that we do. And so I actually have a few pictures from the day. You may see one of your sons or daughters up there. But the kids come up to the high school for an afternoon, and they get to sort of experience what life in the high school looks like. They get to interact with our peer leaders. They get to go to 3 different classes. They had some say in picking those classes. So the one in the upper left was an art. Both the top 2, I guess, are art. A couple of science classes, a foreign language, a science. And I just want, the purpose of this day for me, when I started it several years ago, was very simple. The best asset that we have in the high school, and we've got beautiful facilities and tremendous support from parents, tremendous support from administration, our board. We have, I have everything I could want. The best thing about this school is the faculty. And I'm super proud. Our faculty, I believe, is stronger than it's ever been. I think each year it gets a little stronger. We make each other better, and then getting a job here is incredibly competitive. Chris Cleveland has some data and numbers on that, but for every job that comes open, we get like 100 applicants because people want to be here because of this school and the reputation and the strength of this place. So our faculty are tremendous, and I just wanted our students to at least get to interact. They also, on that day, got to eat lunch with the current 9th graders, and that's really more of a kind of a social conversation. They talk about homecoming, they talk about freshman retreat, they talk about integrating into the high school. So I just want them to get a clear sense of what life in the high school looks like as they and you guys are making decisions about where they want to do their high school years. Of course, we want that to be here. So that was a day that we did back in the fall. Another event that's coming up for you guys is a parent coffee on March 7th, and that's really a Q&A session. And I will have some parents that are current 8th grade parents, but either have high school students or have had high school students, and you can ask them all sorts of questions about how much homework do you have, and what about course load, and tell me about this, and what was your experience with all sorts of things. So we'll do that in the morning, and that's on March the 7th. So we'd love for you to think about making plans to be there. And then there are a lot of student assemblies. A couple of these have already taken place. A lot of them are coming up in the next few weeks. I work closely with Lee Ryder and Libby to get into our 8th graders, and different people go and talk about opportunities that are available in the high school and how they can get involved. And if you think you might want to be a part of the Honor Council or the Student Council or the different extracurricular activities and camps. And a lot of the camp conversations are once the kids get up a little older, there's opportunities to perhaps be involved in working at a camp here at the school. So they hear about all these different things, the various electives that are out there. And again, that's either taking place already or it's coming up in the coming weeks. So, and then summer reading as well as a part of that. Those two dates at the bottom are really important. And again, you can write them down if you want to go ahead and put them in your calendar or whatever, but this will be made available to you. Those are those are just really how we start high school, how we start the high school years for a student at Wesleyan. So on Thursday, August 8th, sounds like a long way off, but it's going to come here very quickly. In the afternoon, all the ninth graders go through, they basically get to walk through their schedule, meet their teachers, figure out how to navigate the building and where their classes are. They also get to meet their peer leaders on that day, so it's a really important day and a big day for them. So that's the afternoon of Thursday, August 8th, and then the next day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those 3 days are freshman retreat. And they will be going to, I believe it's Carolina Point. I know it's a Young Life camp. I think it's Carolina Point. It could be Sharp Top, but I think it's Carolina Point. Those 3 days are awesome. And we start the freshman year that way. A lot of, all the peer leaders go. Most of the seniors that aren't peer leaders also go because they do work crew and serve food, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great time for the class to bond. There'll obviously be some new students that come through admissions. It's a great way to kind of acclimate them and welcome them into the Wesleyan family. And they're going to hear the message of the gospel. We have an outstanding speaker that comes and shares that, and they do a lot of worship. And it's a lot of silliness and fun and games. And it's just a great, great way to start the high school year. So those days are really important. And then we come back from that, and school starts the following week, but not on Monday. It's, we come back and there's some new student orientation and new teachers. There's some other things going on. But mark those days down. August 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th are really important days to to get their high school career started. All right, so the main point of tonight is I just want to talk about the academic profile and academic programs in the high school at Wesleyan. And I've got a couple of slides that are different, but if you've been around for a while, you maybe have seen a lot of this because it really hasn't changed a whole lot, although there are some new things I will highlight. So these are our graduation requirements. And a lot of this is set by the state of Georgia. Some of it is ours, but the majority of this really comes from the state of Georgia. 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 4 years of science. The asterisk that you see next to science is there because we count science from the 8th grade. So physical science, if it's a physical science, we count that. So every student at Wesleyan in 8th grade science is in physical science. So they will come into high school with a credit already. That goes on their transcript. The grade is not on their transcript, but the credit appears on their transcript. So really, they only have to take 3 years of science in high school if they so choose, because they'll come in with 1 credit. 3 years in social science. By the way, just so that's a year of world history and a year of U.S. history. They have to take government and they have to take econ. Those are state requirements that they will take that makes up that social science credit. And then Bible, the languages, foreign languages, modern classical languages, PE and health, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then arts, and then electives. And those 2 electives can be anything, any course, not a study hall, not a free period. Those don't count as electives, but any course in which it could be a PE, it could be art, it could be a STEM course, it could be another science, they could double up in math, they could take an extra English. Really anything in that elective credit would fulfill that requirement. So if you add all that up, you get 25 credits. Really it's 24 because that science one doesn't count. And a student in high school takes 7 classes. Everybody takes 7 classes. So if you do the math, 7 by 4 years, you get to 28. So they really have opportunity to take 28 credits. They have to have 24 to graduate. So what do they do with those other 4 credits? That's a big question, and a question that we'll get them to think about, and you guys to think about as you start meeting with grade chairs and planning. But they could do study halls and free periods if they so chose, but a lot of our students will, they love arts and really want to take some more art classes. You're going to hear a little bit more about some STEM offerings that are new and coming to the high school next year. They could double up in math or science. Again, they get to choose what that is. Okay? So, and really 24 required, we have room for 28. All right, this is really what a ninth grade year, what the ninth grade year looks like. And there's not a whole lot of freedom or wiggle room on this because, again, to get your graduation requirements in, you've got to take most of this, and then obviously, as you get into junior and senior year, you need to be sure you've had prerequisites to take the courses that you think you might want to take. So, everybody's going to take English, World Lit, and Comp, and we changed our World Lit and Comp a few years ago so that the fall of freshman year is really a writing, that they're not doing much, they're not analyzing literature and reading in that way. They're really learning how to write and how to write in different ways, how to write in a persuasive way, how to write in a nice formal essay. Whatever the English teachers give them different assignments to really teach them how to write. How do you cite things properly? So that's in the fall, and then in the spring they really start doing some literature and some reading. Math is Algebra 1 or 2. It could be Algebra 2 honors for some really, those students on an accelerated track, geometry honors, if they're in the Algebra 2 honors as an 8th grader. That is an option for them. Everybody's going to take modern world history, either the honors course or the standard course. 9th grade is biology, and everybody's going to take biology. Again, that's a state of Georgia requirement. You have to have a year of biology to graduate from a high school in the state of Georgia. Modern and classical languages, they can take, we offer French, we offer Spanish, and we offer Latin. And if they want to switch languages, they can switch their language, and they would go back and start in level 1. But if if they come through our middle school and they took French A and French B, or Spanish A and Spanish B, they would go on into Spanish 2 or French 2. And again, there's honors level courses there. And the same thing with Latin. But we do have some students that change their language in high school. That's a possibility if they want to do that. And so if you think about it, those are what we call the 5 cores. So English, Math, History, Science, MCL. And you're going to take those 5 classes. Everybody's taking those 5 core classes. And in the sophomore year, they're going to do the same thing. Junior and senior year, you can get some flexibility a little bit on some of those. You got to have 4 years of math. You got to have 4 years of English. That's set. But that's okay. Thought a fire alarm was going on. But so again, you take 7 classes. You got those 5 cores. So you got two spots, if you will, for other things. And this is really where the decisions start to come in. You have health and fitness. That has an asterisk next to it because there is an option for online health. I believe you guys received an email from Chip Myrick, I believe, in the last couple of days, sort of outlining that. There is an additional fee for online health. I will be honest with you, it has become a more and more popular. More than half of our students do it, but there's still a significant portion that don't do it. I will say this, and if you have an older child that has either in the high school or maybe he's already graduated that did this, the one thing I'll say, I've had two of my own that did it. It's a real course, and it takes time, and it takes some discipline and focus. it's not just, that's an online course and I'll go to a website and answer a few questions and I'll be done with that. It's a time investment. And the way the course is laid out and structured requires you, the students, to do a certain amount of work along the way. They can't do all the work, they can't push it all into 1 week or 2 weeks. They have to submit a certain, I think it's at least one assignment per week over a 6-week period. I think that's right. Chip Meyer knows all the details, and there are some dedicated meetings to that, to discuss that course and how it works. And I think there's 3 times when you can come and hear about it. But it's real. Both my kids did it. They survived it. At the time, I think they thought they weren't going to survive it. It's, you know, if you got a kid that can get up every morning or get up every day about noon and sit down for 30 minutes and do a little bit, you can knock it out. But human nature is they do a little bit and then, no, I don't want to do it. And then next thing you know, you're behind. And then you have to sit down and spend hours working on it. And there's a teacher, they have to check in with the teacher, they call the teacher. The teacher asks them questions over the phone to be sure they're doing their reading. That's how they do some of their assessments. And they will pester you. They'll tell you, you're 30% of the way through the course and you've only done 10% of the work, meaning you're behind. And they continue to send these weekly emails. They send the emails to the parents as well to make sure that you can get the prodder out and get them moving. So online help is a big choice. It's a big choice. The advantage is you take that course and it opens up room in your schedule. The disadvantage is you have to do schoolwork over the summer. So it's something to think about. Health is a semester-long course if you do it during the year. OT and LOJ, that's our Bible courses, Old Testament and Life of Jesus. So those are both semester courses. A couple of years ago we made changes to this that really I think have helped our students in general. We used to say they could only take Old Testament in 9th grade and they had to wait to take Life of Jesus in the 10th grade. And then what that meant was junior and senior year, they had to take Bible electives both semesters. Now, they can do Old Testament and Life of Jesus both in the freshman year. And because those are prerequisites for the other Bible electives. So we have 6 other Bible electives that they can choose from. So, again, there's choices and there's benefits to go in different routes, and it depends. Both of my children are involved in band and chorus and those things, and so that kind of limited some of their choices, which is one of the reasons we did online help. But for everybody in the room, there may be that many different situations, and you need to have conversations with your son or daughter about their priorities and what do they want to do and where they want to get. So the next to the last line there, those are the new STEM courses. Intro to Engineering, and then there's another one called Intro to Computer Science. Randy Kaler, if you have not met Randy Kaler, he is awesome, and we hired him last summer, and he is really building this program, and he's got a vision, he's got a longitudinal view of where we're going, and a 3-year, 4-year plan. If you are interested, your son or daughter is really interested in STEM, and the idea of going in that direction, I would encourage you to come to his presentation. I've got it later in the slides. I think it's March 14th. And that'll get recorded as well. If you can't be here, we'll record it and we'll make it available to you so you can see that. And then you've got art, band, chorus, again, and then you've got maybe study hall. Possibility if your child's a 3-season athlete or something, they're really busy after school, they might like to have some time during the day to work on homework. So we do have study halls as an option. But that's kind of a big, broad picture of what is available and what 9th grade students are going to do. The choices are really in that very bottom row. That's where the choices come in. The top 5 courses, they're their teachers will make recommendations. I believe they've already made those recommendations and they're available. So that's really kind of set and it's out there. All right. There we go. I thought we would talk about some questions that I typically get, and I'll address these. And again, when we get towards the end, I'll take any questions you want. A big question that gets asked is, what kind of load should I take? It depends on your son or daughter. The best answer I can tell you is, what's the most ambitious, rigorous course load they can take and maintain their sanity and maintain your sanity as parents? And it depends. Some students get recommended for honors and all these courses, and they say, you know what, I'm only going to take 3 of those, or I'm going to take them all. Or, you know, how involved are they? And are they really involved in Young Life, and they go to dance 4 nights a week, and they do all, you know, then I think you need to think about those things. Because if you take a really rigorous course load, you're going to be expected to put in some hours outside of school. So we made an effort a few years ago. Chris Cleveland challenged really the whole school to look at rigor and how we define rigor. And rigor is not based on quantity. It's based on quality of work. But there's going to be some quantity if you're taking a really rigorous load. So again, you have to answer that question with your son or your daughter as a family. You know, what do we want to do? And how involved we're going to be in other areas. And some kids go through here and they take honors and AP, this and that, and they're a multi-sport athlete, and they go on the ski retreat, and they're doing everything, and they seem fine. They're not stressed, and they can, you know. And then other kids, it's a lot to just do, you know, a couple of these things. So it really depends. I know that's not a great answer, but you need to think about that in regards to your son and daughter. Do I have to take the courses for which I'm recommended? So in Blackbaud now, you can go and view the course recommendations. If you go in there, there's a place where you can go and click and see what their recommendations are. And the answer is, if they're recommended for honors, you don't have to take honors. Again, you need to think about that and what's best for your son or daughter. But if they're recommended for standard level, they won't be able/eligible to register for that honors course. But if they're recommended for honors, they could choose standard. So you don't have to take, you know, the science teacher recommended me for honors. Do I have to take honors biology? No, you don't have to. You can take standard biology. So they don't have to, they can go down, they just can't opt to go up. Should I take a study hall? We have a study hall available every period of the day. And it's proctored by a faculty member, and they're over, actually the classroom in Yancey is where they meet. And we have students that do it. So again, some people like time during the day to focus on homework and catch up on reading and schoolwork. Some students don't, but it is available as an option, and it's proctored. It's not a free period. 11th and 12th graders, if you'll hear this language of a free period, that's a free period. It means they can go to the lounge, they can go to the library, they can go hang out in, you know, various places on campus, over in the art building or whatnot. 9th and 10th graders don't get that option. If they're not in a class, then they are assigned to a study hall during that period. What's Wesleyan's philosophy on AP courses? You'll notice back when I put up the 9th grade list that there are no AP offerings for 9th grade. AP offerings begin in 10th grade. We limit the number of AP courses a student can take. We think it's best for students and families to put up some borders and guidelines. So the general rule is 1 as a sophomore, 2 as a junior, and 3 as a senior. Students can petition to exceed that limit. But there's conversations that go along with that. There's a little committee that kind of discusses it, and Is this, first of all, can the student do it? Do we think the student can really do it based on their academic record and experience? And do we think it's in their best interest to do it? So yeah, you could do this, but at what cost? So Wesleyan does have limits in place. Our schools, for those of you that are curious about, are we limiting our kids? In some way, I guess maybe they're limited in the number of AP courses they could take, but our colleges that our students apply to, they get a profile, and they know that students from Wesleyan have limits. There are a lot of public schools that do not have limits. The one across the street does not have limits, and Johns Creek does not have limits. A lot of schools don't have limits, so those kids will take 15, 18 AP courses. I don't think that's a healthy way to do high school, but there are students that do that. But our students aren't, they're being compared against what were they able to take here, not against what others are doing. Will I actually be placed, or will your son or daughter actually be placed in the courses for which they register? Almost always, yes. But I can't promise that. So Chris Yoder is our Director of Studies, and Chris Yoder builds the schedule. We do that in May. He meets with me. He meets with all the department chairs, and we find out, we have 4 sections of Algebra 2 and 3 sections of Algebra 2 honors and this many sections of this, and then he goes and builds the schedule. And when I say he builds it, he enters all these constraints into the computer, and the computer builds a schedule that gives the most kids the most classes possible. It's impossible, I guess it's not impossible, but I've never seen it happen, that everybody gets everything they want. So, what causes that? Lots of things. If your son or daughter registers for band, we only have band 1 period a day, and maybe they're in Latin 2. We only have, excuse me, we only have Latin 2 1 period a day, just based on the number of students that register for it. If those 2 classes happen to be the same period, it would be impossible for them to get both of those. Now that's rare. We try to get kids who want to be in band. We try to get kids who want to be in chorus. But as they move up through the ranks, you can see, thank you, Joe, you can see that like calculus, BC calculus, we have 1 of those. AP physics, I think we have 2 of those. AP computer science, we have 1 of those. Thank you, sir. But you can see where there starts to build, there's conflicts. It doesn't happen much with 9th grade, to be honest with you. Most 9th graders get what they want, but I guarantee you there'll be somebody in the room that wanted some combination of courses that's impossible to build. Those decisions are not based on anything other than numbers. Okay, we don't. Chris Yoder doesn't see the names and look at it and say, well, I'm going to make sure these kids get what they want, and these. It's not that. It's just numbers. What gives the most kids what they want, and that's the schedule that is built. Can I choose the semester in which I take a particular course? So, for example, I'm going to take health. I want to take health. I'm not doing online health. I want to take health, but I want to take it in the fall. We can't assure that. We can try, and we can after the system, and we'll get to that last question down there. We can talk about there's ways to kind of try to jockey a little bit, but we can't make any assurance that I really want to take art in the spring, or I really want to take any semester course. Really, is what we're talking about. So there's no guarantee, and again, that's just based on the computer and building a schedule that's going to give the most kids the classes they want. If we started putting constraints on this kid wants fall and this one wants spring, the more constraints you put into the system, makes it harder to build that schedule. I already addressed that second question. The answer is yes. You can change your language. You would go back to level 1, and that we do have students that do that every year. If I take Algebra 1 in ninth grade, can I still get to calculus as a senior? The answer is yes. It would mean you would have to double up in math. We have a few students that do that every year. There's some of my, I call them success stories. They came through middle school, maybe they weren't great at math, or they thought they weren't good at math, or they just maybe came from a situation where they were a little bit behind in math, and they figure out that I'm really good at math, or maybe I really like math, and this interest develops as they move through high school, and they double up, and then they go on and they take calculus. A couple of years ago, I remember we had a student that had been in foundations in 8th grade and took Algebra 1 in 9th grade, and then he doubled up, took geometry and pre-cal, and then he doubled up and did calculus with statistics, AP statistics, and then he went on to college and majored in accounting. So, and he's thriving and doing well. So, there are paths if you feel like I'm in Algebra 1, I'm not going to be able to get to a certain point. There are pathways and opportunities to get there. The next to the last question refers back to the very first slide. Questions, you can refer to me, Joe Koch, Ken Connor, Lee Ryder, and Libby can also help you, depending on what the question is. Chris Yoder is a resource. There's lots of people that can help you out and help you get any questions answered. All right, the last question is an important question. Will a student have an opportunity to change their schedule after they register? The answer is yes, but we do it in May. So that's a little bit different. So they'll find out, I don't have the exact date, it might be, I think it's on a later slide, somewhere around the middle of May. So think about the middle of May. The sky is falling, and everybody's just trying to get to Memorial Day and graduation and get out the door. But they'll get their schedule, and they'll have a 2-week window where they can look at their schedule and, I didn't get this class, so maybe if there's some way where if I change my art class from this to that, or if I, whatever, if there's some way to change this schedule to try and get what I want. Or I was recommended for Honors English, and at the time I registered, I didn't sign up for it. But now I've decided I do want to do Honors English. We do that in May. We have a drop add period. It's 2 weeks, and there's a process. They go through their grade chair and submit that request. It's submitted through Blackbaud. It's all electronic. And then Chris Yoder will try to make it work. If there's a way to make it work, Chris Yoder will make it work. He is amazing and incredible. So there is an opportunity to do that. And we do that in May because we then have to make our final staffing decisions based on what everybody's registered for, and make sure we got the right people. We can't wait and do those things in the fall. So we do make some changes in the fall, but they tend to be initiated by the teacher or the grade chair or department chair, somebody like that would come and say, hey, this kid was not recommended for honors. I think he could do it, and I talked to him, he wants to do it, let's move him up. But there's not very many of those types. So for the most part, schedules are set at the end of May. All right, so some key dates that I want to discuss. Recommendations should be available in Blackbaud now. And if you go in and there's the progress tab where you can check and see how they're doing on their grades. There's another tab over there. I think it says course recommendations. I forget. There's a tab on there. You can click on that and see what they've been recommended for. Thursday, March 14th is the date I was referring to earlier. That is the Thursday before spring break. So it'll be, again, that's kind of a busy time, but I work with Randy Kaler on trying to find a date in the spring that's not busy is impossible. Between all the spring sports, and all the things that are going on at the school. That date seemed to have fewer conflicts, so if you want to come, I really, really hope it works for you or for your spouse or somebody to be here. We will record it and make it available if you want to hear. He's kind of going to lay out his vision, and Randy is awesome. He's dynamic. He's a professional engineer by trade, and he worked engineering for years. He went and built a STEM program at another school 5 years ago that was tremendously successful, and we were fortunate enough to get him over here this year. So he's got experience in doing this, and phenomenal. I've seen a lot of what he's doing and his ideas. Really, really, really outstanding. We're blessed to have him. All right, so Tuesday, April 23rd, so that's still 2 months away, is when students actually register. So you've got 2 months to think about this and have conversations with grade chairs and think about, do we want to do online help? Do we want to double up and take both those Bible classes in the freshman year? If your son or daughter is really, really into art, visual art, and thinks they want to get to AP art, they need to think about, there's prerequisites. You kind of have to get on a track to get to some of these things. So Thursday, May 16th, that's the day that I mentioned, mid-May, where schedules become available. And they can go and take a look at what they've got. Now, I do want to say one thing about that. When they get their schedule, it won't say who the teacher is, because teachers at that point have not been assigned to the classes. And it won't say, like, first period you got French, and second period you got English, and third. It just says, here's the courses you got in. So the order and the teachers and that stuff will, they'll find that out in the fall when they come to drop it in day. But they will know what courses they are actually registered for. And then May 20th, which is, I believe that's a Monday, through May 31st, which is a Friday of the following week. So they get a 2-week window. That's when they can make changes. Drop add requests, we call that the drop add period. So those are some really important dates that are coming up here that you just need to be aware of. I didn't put up there on this slide, but remember March 7th is the parent coffee, the Q&A parent coffee, if you want to plan to attend that. All right, I think I've talked about some of this, but a couple of things to mention. Online health, that's a big one to think about. Again, Chip Myrick sent the information. Take a look at it. I believe the course is $550, something close to that. It gives you flexibility in your schedule. That's great. The drawback is it takes away some flexibility in the summer. It's flexible in that it's online and you can be at the beach doing it, but you still got to be doing it. The timing of courses, what do I mean by that? So I mentioned this for Bible. In order to take our Bible elective, you have to have had Old Testament and Life of Jesus. Okay, so Old Testament survey course and sort of a New Testament survey course. So if you wait to take Life of Jesus in the sophomore year, that's fine, but then you're going to be taking Bible electives in probably junior and senior year. Again, that's okay. Our students, every senior in the senior class this year is doing that because that's the only option really that exists. So, but if you come and hear Randy's STEM presentation, there's a sequence to those courses. So if you want to take some of these later courses, you kind of have to, so just mention art, AP art. I want to take AP art. Well, to take AP art, you have to take drawing, and then painting, and then sculpture, or 2D, advanced 2D. There's sort of a track that gets you there, just to get those prerequisites in. Okay? So, I hope you're not stressed. You can't do it all. Okay, they've got to make choices. In an ideal world, you could just do it all. And we'd have a 14-period day, and they would take 13 classes, and they could take everything. But it's not feasible. And honestly, no matter what we did, they're still going to have to make some choices. And that's the nature of life as well. We make choices all the time on how we spend our time and how we spend our money, and all. There's limits, and there's things you have to decide daily. By the way, my son is a senior this year, and so he's, we survived the college application process. We're now suffering through the college selection process, but so he's I want to take this, and I want to take this, and I want to take, and I'm like, look, to graduate, this is what they say you have to take, so you can't take 3 different foreign languages. It's just not going to fit. I'm not paying for 7 years of college, so you have to make some choices. But anyway, but think about the timing in particular, and if you have questions about that, that would be a good thing to, some things you can, you want to jump right in and take class piano, go for it. There's no prerequisite for that. But if you want to take AP Art, you're going to have to do some work on the front end to get to AP Art. All right, and then the mentor program. Every 9th grader will be assigned a mentor. And you meet with that mentor once a week for about 15 minutes. We meet in small groups. It's not a one-on-one setting. There are 4, 5, 6 students assigned to a mentor. They'll have the option to stay with that mentor all 4 years, or at the end of their 9th grade year, they can sort of raise their hand and say, I would like to. They don't get to pick their mentor, but they can give us a list of 6 names. They can give us more than that. They have to give us at least 6. They have to be happy with any of these 6. We want that to be a meaningful, important relationship that the kid gets some benefit out of, so that we do give them some input. But the 9th graders, they don't. The incoming 9th graders, they get assigned, and then at the end of the 9th grade year, they get some say in who their mentor is. And then once they choose, if they choose to change at the end of the 9th grade year, they stay with that person for the next 3 years. And that's just a person. We started this program maybe 5 years ago, and we want every student that comes through Wesleyan to have at least one adult that they feel really comfortable with and they can go to. Hopefully there's more than that, but we hope there's at least one that is there, be it a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a grade chair, the counselor, dean, somebody. And we felt like a few years ago maybe that there were some kids were falling through the cracks. And our grade chairs do an amazing job, but as Wesleyan has grown and grown and grown, it's become more challenging to make sure every woman was having that type of experience. So this was one of our attempts to address that situation, was to start this program. And I think it's been good. I have kids. I have 4 students myself. 3 of them are seniors this year, and I've been with them and seen them grow and develop, and it's been a lot of fun. So, but anyway, so that's one thing. So they're going to have a peer leader. That's a senior. They'll actually have 2 peer leaders, a boy and a girl. And the freshmen get split into group sizes, about 12 to a group. And then there's 2 peer leaders. They call them their peer mom and their peer dad. And they're intentional about pouring into those kids, and they have conversations. They meet weekly throughout the whole year, the whole freshman year, and talk about how to be successful in high school and things they've learned, things they wish they had done when they were coming along. And they're going to have grade chairs. We've got a lot of people, a lot of systems and structures in place to hopefully build those relationships and make sure they have a great experience. All right, this is a long way off, but I want to talk about it, so please just indulge me a few more minutes. I'm almost done. Next fall, they'll take final exams in the high school. All final exams are 2 hours. If they have extended time, obviously they get 3 hours. And in the ninth grade year, they count 20% of their grade. When they move up to 10th grade and up, it's 25% of their grade. The exam comes with weighted a little more heavily. But for ninth graders, we think 20% feels right. So there are some courses that, get counted, even though they may be in a class that has some 10th graders. First and second year courses in French and Spanish and Latin are considered ninth grade courses because the bulk of the students in those courses are ninth graders. And geometry is considered a 10th grade course. And this is the final exam schedule. I'm putting this up here because I want you to, your child has to be here for these, okay? I know everybody wants to, if we could slide out of town one day early, we beat everybody to the ski slopes, or we get to grandma's house early, or whatever the case may be. Okay, but they have to be here. There's an asterisk next to English. What is that there for? The ninth grade fall semester of English. I told you that was where they're doing writing, they're learning writing. They end the semester with a paper, like a significant research paper, and so they don't have an exam. So they actually won't have to be here on that Tuesday, but they will have a history exam, they will have a science exam, they will have a math exam. The Friday, it depends on what they take, if they have an elective, if they had, I don't know that a ninth grader would have a conflict. They could have a makeup if they were sick or there's some emergency or something that happens. Not many ninth graders take an exam on that Friday, but if they're in a STEM elective, I think there probably would be an exam. So just depending on what elective they're in, they could have an exam there. So I don't know if these are these may be on the website already, but you guys may be the first ones to see this, the official exam schedule for next fall. But just in your mind, you've got to be here the whole week for exam period. Okay, every year we have some people that come to us and say, we bought our plane ticket, it saved us $100, and we need to fly to, that's great, okay, but we don't let students take final exams early. Okay, we've had great reasons, like going to my brother's graduation in the spring and what. But for us, it's just a security, for exam security, and also, quite honestly, it's just kind of a fairness thing because everybody would, I'd love to take my exams Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we can get out of town. So, so the exam schedule is rigid, and we will follow it. So I just wanted to make that available. Okay, I did that in 50-some minutes, so you've listened to me talk for a long time, and I apologize for that. Are there any questions that I can address tonight?
Other than assuming an honors course is more challenging than a standard, what's the benefit to the students of taking an honors course?
That's a great question. So for most of our AP courses, it's going to be easier to get into an AP course if you've taken the honors course. The honors course is sort of preparing you to, if you take honors world history and then want to get to AP US history in the 10th grade. Some kids come from regular history, but you got to have a higher grade. Honors courses get points. They get some points added. It's 4 points. So what does that mean? That means if their average was an 89, at the end we add 4 points, so it becomes a 93. So that's an A. So it's kind of, and that's a tough choice. I mean, I'll be honest with you. My son has taken honors and is fine. My daughter's taken them too, but she's, I think now in a couple that if she had to do air dancing, this one's, it's maybe because she does dance 2 nights a week and drama and these honors courses are causing a whole new kind of drama. So, anyway, but other questions?
You mentioned the various tracks. Is there a list or a
It's on the website. If you go to our website, which, I'm not going to say what I was about to say, but go to our website and you can go to academics and then click high school, and then I believe it says 9th grade course of study. And you can also look by subject. Like you can look at the math, sort of the math courses and the math curriculum. If you can't find the answer to your question, I would reach out to a grade chair or somebody that can help you. But the website has a lot there. You might have to dig a little bit and hunt a little bit, but most everything is there.
Will they know who the teachers are before or during the drop ad, so if they don't like the teacher, they can...
They won't, we make changes. We used to do that, and then sometimes we have to make a change because, somebody decides they're going to leave in the summer, and then we're juggling and shuffling. There's reasons we can't do that because, a bunch of kids would flock this direction and flock that direction and other things. So I'll say our faculty in the high school is, again, they're amazing. And, so the answer is no, they won't. No, sorry.
Besides online help, are there other summer school options?
Okay, so in the past, this is a good question. In the past, we offered online Bible. And we did it, I believe we did it for 3 consecutive summers. And I'm proud of a lot of what I've done in this role. That crashed and burned. And it was, we had everybody like, we'll do it, we're in. Like, it'll give us more freedom. And so I worked hard at the time with Russ Custer, was the chair of the Bible department, and Ramona Blankenship. And we worked really hard, and we came up with a couple of classes, and then people didn't take them. We had like class 3 kids and 5 kids. Now the kids that took them, it benefited them, no doubt, right? They got their Bible credits and it gave them freedom and flexibility to do some more things. We, this year, have started some conversations. That's why when I mentioned Joe back at the beginning, he's been privy to all those conversations. I will just say that we as an administration are aware that we're trying to fit 20 pounds of stuff into a 10-pound bag. Like there's not a lot of freedom and flexibility. And I want students to have choices. I want them to have options. But again, no matter what we do, you're going to have to make some choices. You're going to have to. My son loved band, did marching band. Junior, senior year, he couldn't do band because he wanted to take a second foreign language. Okay, that's great. You can't do everything. But we have had some conversations about offering some creative ways to earn credits. Maybe some hybrid courses where I think the summer courses that we did a few years ago didn't work because you had to be here on campus for 3 weeks from, I think it was 9 to 1 every day. And there's a certain amount of, you have to do a certain amount of work and hours and contact hours. So we talked about, could you have a course where maybe you're here a few days and then there's some online component? And then, because I think if people had freedom and flexibility, they might be more open to it. So we're working on it, but I don't want to promise you anything, but I can assure you we've had many conversations, many hours, and the conversations are ongoing, and I feel good about where they're headed, but we're not, it's mid-February now, late February, whatever it is, we're for next year, I don't see that, but I do see some changes coming down the road.
For the STEM presentation, is that for big children too, or is it just?
It's for 9 through, is that your question, or did you say middle school?
Is it for the kids to come too?
Yeah, they can come, it's students and parents, and it's rising 9 through 12. Although he's got a middle school, he's got a K-12 vision, but this night in particular is 9 through 12, but yeah, students, I would encourage students to come and hear about it. Yeah, so students and parents.
Do we know who their grade chairs are gonna be?
What was the question?
I'll know soon. How about this? They're going to be great.
Jeff,
Anyway,
what was the question,
we're
Jeff?
very soon. Very, very soon.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, grade chairs
Okay.
for this group. So, and they'll be with, the idea, just so you understand the high school model of grade chair, the grade chair stays with them for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And then the senior years, a totally different creature all itself. And we have designated senior grade chairs because that year is so unique and different.
When, for the online help, and you say that it offers them flexibility in their schedule during the school year, what can they put in that spot besides a study hall? Can they, like, any?
So they may give them room to take both those Bibles, so they can do Old Testament and Life of Jesus, or maybe a STEM course, or an art course. If they're a band or chorus kid, it might give them the flexibility to find a way to make that work.
So our son was thinking that if he took band, he couldn't also do the STEM. So if he did the online help, would it be possible to do the band dance?
I believe there's a STEM option that's, and again, this is a new, I'm not as familiar with the courses just yet, because Randy's just rolling them out, but I believe there's a STEM option that's a semester-long course. So I think you can do both of those things. I believe that is possible.
Hey, Mr. Plunk, okay, is it possible to double up in Bible in one semester?
It is not. That's a good question. It becomes a staffing issue for us if we had, I want to take all my Bibles or double them up or stack them up. And then, 1 year we got a bunch of kids in Bible, and next year it drops, and it becomes a staffing issue. So, that's not an option. Oh, I'm sorry.
What about the Georgia Virtual School? Does Wesleyan have any tie-up with that, or those schools?
We do not. So his question was Georgia Virtual School, so online academy through the state of Georgia. I will say that we have some students that take courses through them, and for their own benefit, challenge, and some of them even take an online AP. We don't have many that do it. Don't hear me like we're talking one or two that have done it. But we have tended to use them more for recovering credits. So students that have failed, or maybe due to illness, they're gone a significant portion of the semester. We've used the virtual academy for them to recover credits. I think their courses are good. I do. Okay, I think I might be hearing students out there. So I'm going to stick around for a few minutes if you want to come and chat. Otherwise, I hope maybe I'll see you on March 7th. Thank you for coming out. Have a great night.